So today is a very special milestone for My Hero Academia. The episode that came out today marks the 100th episode, and that's quite the achievement, honestly. I mean, it's been a journey. Like, if you have been watching My Hero Academia to this point, think about just how many years it's taken to be here. Like, the anime started in 2016? 2017? Somewhere around there. It's been a long time, and it's 2021 right now. It's been years since the My Hero Academia officially started, and we have finally made it to 100 episodes. And it's just like, when you look at other long-running shonen, they have like 300, maybe 500 episodes, or if you're One Piece, you're gigantic with 900-something episodes. But the point is that 100 episodes is quite the achievement. Not many anime typically make it that far. And just to see that My Hero Academia has managed to make it to 100 episodes is an achievement in of itself. It is something to be praised. It's something to show that it's still popular as ever, and people really do love this series, and the staff, Studio Bones, really love making this series. But enough with that. Let's talk about this week's episode of My Hero Academia, what it's about, and kind of what is slowly being built up behind the scenes. So, we are finally officially done with Class A versus Class B in UA, and I guess this could come as a breath of fresh air for many, because I feel like a lot of the community, which I've talked about many times in the past, don't really like Class A versus Class B. This is something that was ongoing in the manga. I remember when the manga chapter was coming out, people did not like the arc. And then when the anime came out, I noticed that as well. I even made a video talking about, like, why is no one really watching it, or I'm not seeing many people talk about it. And from what I could gather from everyone really discussing it after I made that video, is basically like, oh, it's just we're waiting for the next arc after Class A versus Class B, which does make sense. It's just like, it's so fascinating to me how many people really dislike Class A versus Class B, even though in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty good arc, especially for what it tries to do with My Hero Academia. And before I kind of finally close the lid on that arc, I want to say a few things. My personal opinion on the arc. I was always someone that really liked it when I read the manga, and watching it throughout the anime, it has been enjoyable, but there has been some fluff and things added in that could be a little bit annoying. I will admit that. But overall, I don't overly hate the arc. I don't think it is the best arc, but I don't think it is just outright garbage. I feel like what the fundamentals of what the arc was about, Class A versus Class B, was about kind of giving more characterization to the Class B students and giving us some development for some ongoing Class A characters that needed more development. So I feel like the arc did its job right, and it even set up Izuku with his mysterious black whip power unlocking with One for All. So there's been a lot going on within the arc. There has definitely been a lot. It's not something that isn't big. There is a lot of big things sprinkled in throughout the arc. I mean, even this episode, that's kind of like the conclusion to the arc, showcases Monoma in his development and finding out more about his character and kind of what One for All is, what Aries' quirk is, and how his quirk works in its entirety. There's a lot of things you can grab from the arc that is incredibly important, and so, personally, I liked it, but I do understand why people do not like it. I would not be someone to say, if you hate it, you're wrong. I understand why someone would not like the arc, because I feel like many might want to go back to, like, heroes versus villains, etc., especially with what happened in the Overhaul arc, or, All Might versus All for One, etc. People might want to go back to that, which, like I said, I understand that. So, I'm not gonna hold it against anyone if you disliked it, but that arc is finally over, and we're finally about to get into some, how can I say it, some really high-quality stuff. That's the only thing I want to mention. I'm not going to go any further because I don't want to spoil anyone. Monoma and Eri. The meeting of these two characters is something I think many did not expect. I know when I saw this for the first time, when I was, reading the manga, I was like, Monoma and Eri in the same room. That just sounds like something bad waiting to happen. Because Monoma's eccentric personality, the way he's just always pizzazzy, moving around and laughing, etc., always acting like he's better than Class A and all that, you're just like, this man being around someone as shy as Eri, that's been so sheltered or kind of done like she's done thanks to Overhaul, you'd think, like, she would be overwhelmed by the individual that is Monoma. And when you see Monoma actually interact with her, he gets very calm. He actually is so toned down, you might even question yourself, like, is this the same Monoma? Like, he literally doesn't act so eccentric. He doesn't go crazy and all that with his normal personality. He acts so calm, in fact, it does not make Eri uncomfortable, which goes to show what type of person Monoma really is, and how he does have the qualities to actually be a hero. Because he knows when it's time to be, like, so eccentric around others, but also when it needs to be toned down to deal with those that don't know. And I appreciate that. It's a really good scene to show a lot about Monoma's character when him interacting with Eri, but also even answering Izuku's question about what blank means when it comes to his quirk. He's like, oh, you know, the blank, what it means is stockpiling. And we personally, as watchers / readers of My Hero Academia, we know how One For All works. It's a stockpiling quirk. But obviously, you know, Monoma did not know that, and him basically saying that when he copies an ability, he is getting a blank version of it. He's basically starting at, let's say, ground zero. He's starting at the version of the quirk that has not built up any power. So to give this a very simplistic summary, he copied One For All, but he started at the very beginning of One For All, basically from the first user before it was passed down. So, hypothetically, if Monoma was to somehow hold on to One For All for a long time, and then, you know, eventually he might be able to pass it down to another user. So Monoma could be kind of like a crack in the rules for One For All. He could be someone that could potentially create more users of One For All. That is some room to think about. It makes you wonder exactly how far that could go. If it is a blank, could he still pass it on? You get my point. And then, could he also technically copy All For One? And if he copied All For One, you know, where would that go? Like, I mean, if he was to copy All For One, obviously he might not get All For One's quirks, but he would still be able to take more quirks. So, it shows that Monoma is definitely quite a character. Very, very powerful if he gets his hands on the right quirk and he really knows how to use it. Which goes back into the topic of stockpiling, which is Eri. So, we are finally given some context to Eri's quirk. It's something that is a mystery. Ever since her introduction, we don't really know too much about it. All we know is that it's able to revert people, like basically rewind them. We have seen this done thanks to Izuku and how she was also used for quirk erasing bullets with Togata. We know for a fact that she has a very powerful ability that kind of resets people, but we don't know exactly the full limitations, how it works, the stipulations behind it and all that. But we do know one thing now thanks to this episode, and that is she stockpiles something. We don't know what she's stockpiling. There is some educated guesses you can make, but we don't know what she's stockpiling and how long it needs to stockpile for her to be able to use her quirk properly. So, what this basically means is, with how much Overhaul made her use her quirk when he was making those quirk erasing bullets, he knew what Eri's quirk was like, how to really stockpile whatever she's stockpiling. Is it related to stress, emotion, or something else? There's so many things to really consider about it, but it's very fascinating. A really good little detail thrown in to build up for the future of Eri. Now, moving further, let's talk about Izuku and his conversation with Bakugo. Bakugo and Izuku have a brief little sparring match after the events of Class A versus Class B, and it's a very nice way to showcase the rivalry, once again, that they, even though there is some harsh language from Bakugo, he is definitely toned down a bit, and he is kind of worrying about Izuku in his own way. He is taking into consideration that Izuku is going through a hard time, and he listens to what All Might says, he listens to Izuku, and he tries to help Izuku out in his own way by having a sparring match to see if Black Whip might pop out if Izuku gets scared or stressed, but it does not. And once Bakugo realizes there's nothing to worry about, he quickly leaves the building, which just says a lot. He definitely has built up a better relationship with Izuku, and it's just right in your face, especially with these last few episodes of My Hero Academia. Then we also have the stuff with Todoroki and Bakugo and how they got their hero license, and this is something that's been building up also for a very long time, because because we know they failed their exam and all that. They weren't able to obtain their hero license, and they had to take, like, extra courses to be able to get a shot at it once again, and they managed to finally obtain their hero license within this episode, and literally within 30 minutes of them attaining their license, they get into active duty of hero work and taking down villains in the middle of the street, which is kind of hilarious, but it makes so much sense with Todoroki and Bakugo's personalities that they would already be dealing with villains as soon as they get their license. It's pretty interesting, but it also shows how much they learned and how much they have changed, especially getting to see Bakugo save someone instead of going and fighting the villains. That is a big deal, because once again, we gotta remember, Bakugo was always about fighting, like, you know, going in and fighting a lot of opponents at once, and then he learned how to save people, and this was made very apparent a few episodes back when he was going against Class B, and we get to see that once again, that he, instead of, you know, confronting the villains and trying to really fight them, he went out of his way and he saved someone that needed to be saved first. And it's a really beautiful moment just to see that he has managed to be able to overcome some of these hurdles of what it means to be a hero, and also his teamwork with Todoroki, which he had a huge issue with in the past. He's able to work with him now. So just like, there's a lot to really dissect about the character, so much development there, and even seeing Todoroki, you know, actually messaging Endeavor, his father, and it's like, hey, I need to learn more about this quirk. So just like, everything about it, it's good character development for both characters. A lot of stuff happened within this episode, and a lot of setup too. And there's one thing I do want to mention before I, you know, wrap up this sad episode. Like, I guess two things I need to left to mention. Firstly, which is a very big detail, is we get to see the villains that Todoroki and Bakugo fight. They use this weird gadget on the wrist. Like, you see the main one use this weird gadget that starts shooting out carbonated water out of his wrist, and he starts to say it's too strong, too strong. It's like he's losing control of the gadget, and as he's losing control, you see it starts going sporadic, and it starts leveling things around him, which shows just the sheer power and destruction of that gadget that is on that villain's wrist. Obviously, it wasn't working right. It's clear by the way his reaction was, but the sheer power and force of it just goes to show that a minor villain is getting beefed up. And we've seen this already happen a few times in the past with some characters, like we saw how Overhaul was giving certain things on the market to strengthen villains. So we know for a fact that something is going on. Someone else has probably stepped into Overhaul's territory and giving out gadgets, etc., potentially strengthening minor villains. And that's where that comes in. You see the gadget break, and it says that's from the black market. You see, you know, Sliding Go say that. So we know there is something going on. Someone is trying to hide the evidence. Someone is having the gadgets blow up, etc. Because if they probably get a hold of the gadgets, they might know who it is. There is definitely something going on. That is a big detail that some could miss while watching this episode. Now, the last thing is the scene with Mineta. The Mineta stuff of Mina it's so minor, but it's hilarious to me. I needed to make a segment talking about it. He literally is being clockwork oranged, forced to watch something that we don't even know what he's watching, probably re-educating him in some way of whatever he did wrong. And so I gotta laugh at that. I got a good laugh at that, just seeing that animated, and just like, holy crap. It's so funny. I feel like those that don't like Mineta are probably gonna be really happy with that scene. But that's about it. So, just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you enjoy this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you hate this week's episode? You know, be honest in the comments below. I am curious to see what you all think. But with that, guys, have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. It helps me out a lot. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click that bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.